Hey, Chris Zaldain here. We are on beautiful Lake Ray Roberts in North Texas here. I've got my Tundra and I've got my that's a Mako. I traded out my Nitro for a Mako 18-foot pro skiff, backwater edition. Lake Ray Roberts, it is an awesome lake. At 29,000 surface acres, Lake Ray Roberts is one of 22 lakes on the Trinity River system. There are two forks to this lake, the Elm Fork to the west and Isle du Bois Creek to the east. So Lake Ray Roberts offers everything. It's got clear water, it's got dirty water, that quintessential Texas standing timber. It's got hydrilla, milfoil, rock piles, humps, drop-offs, ledges, everything a fisherman needs to have success any time of year. You know, some of my personal experiences out here, not only have I won several local tournaments out here, I competed in 2 different Bassmaster Classics here. The best fish catch I've ever had on this body of water was back in 2016 during a Toyota Texas Bass Classic. I flipped into a tree and caught an almost 9-pound bass that won me a brand new Toyota Tundra on my wife's birthday. You know, not a lot of anglers can say, you know, the Bassmaster Classic is right in your backyard. I'm really spoiled to live this close to such an awesome fishery.
How about a 9-pounder? Oh, that is so much fun, guys.
Here there are big numbers of big fish. You could go out on any given day, whether it's January or June, and you have a legitimate shot at catching a 10+ pound fish. Not only are there a bunch of largemouth in this place, but there are spotted bass, there are some smallmouth in here, and one of my personal favorites to catch, the meanmouth, which is a smallmouth spot hybrid. So truly is a unique fishery. There are tons of crawdads in the rocks. There are millions of threadfin shad in here, but my favorite is targeting those gizzard shad. There's just something about that larger bait profile of that gizzard shad out here on this lake that leads to big bass. Yeah, this particular area of North Texas, it's a beautiful area and there are plenty of places to eat around here. Lodging is always easy to find around here, especially when you talk about, you know, RV parks, Airbnbs, vacation rental homes, and of course, numerous motels and hotels in the Sanger and Pilot Point area. Finding a spot to launch your boat, kayak, or even bank fishing is really simple at Lake Ray Roberts. We've got Isle du Bois State Park, which is where the Bassmaster Classic was held. Huge facility, tons of parking, easy access. And to the north, you have Johnson Branch State Park as well. You have the Buck Creek ramp down in that dirty water where you could flip a jig in that 2 to 3 feet of water. And lastly, you have Lake Ray Roberts Marina. Very, very popular spot in the springtime. So if you're a newcomer to Lake Ray Roberts, or you've been fishing out here several years like myself, location is key. And let's get into the nuts and bolts of, you know, what to kind of look for, areas to fish dependent on the season. So let's start out with my favorite time of year to fish, which is pre-spawn and spawn. Here in North Texas, that starts about February 20th, goes all through March and into April. But here we are looking at Lake Ray Roberts. This is the dam area. And as you know, the dam area typically has your coolest, clearest water. Being a big bait, swim bait fisherman like myself, especially in the months of February, March, and April, I love to stay within sight of the dam. the water is clearest. There's often, you know, wind around this area and this wide open space. So what I like to do is concentrate on main lake points, whether it's a tip of an island with a little high spot on it, or an actual main lake point itself with a creek channel down the center. I love to target those, as well as the dam corner. And what you have in the corners of the dam is that nice 45-degree rock edge on the face of the dam that meets up with a nice, you know, kind of slow rolling clay flat here. So it's a nice little transition area in both corners of the dam itself here. And whenever you have a nice rock transition in that early spring to spring phase, that's a great spot for a big female largemouth to kind of pull up for the first, you know, part of their spawn phase, feed up, and then eventually move back into some of those creeks. The main lake points that I really love fishing on Lake Ray Roberts are the main points that have a creek channel that sweep right up against that main point here. In other words, we're looking for deep water access with a very hard backstop being rocks or docks and sometimes standing timber. So as we dip into that spawning phase, we're gonna transition from those nice 45-degree rock banks, channel swings. We're gonna go to the first cove closest to those beautiful rocky points here. So what you see in these contour lines is they're further apart. So anywhere that's slightly protected back in some of these creeks, let's say halfway back, 3/4 of the way back, and then all the way back of these creeks, anywhere there's red on this map here indicates 5 feet or less, which the bass really love to spawn in. And if you have a nice little grass bed or holes in the hydrilla and milfoil, that makes it even better. Lake Ray Roberts is a very hard bottom. There's plenty of sand, there's plenty of gravel for those fish to spawn in those creeks. And again, it's gotta have the contour lines that are further apart, indicating those nice, beautiful spawning flats. All right, so we're out here on the lake on the lower end in that pre-spawn and spawn type time of year. And there are 3 baits that I use religiously in February, March, and April here in North Texas. And one of them is a big fish catcher. This thing right here is a glide bait. It's a Bass Pro Shops XPS Swerve. This one throws really far, it cuts really hard, and you could always tell a good glide bait when you reel it in to make the next cast. And if it's pulling back and moving side to side, that's a good glide bait. And this one right here has accounted for many 7, 8, 9 pound fish actually on this spot we're on right here. But what you want to look for again are those wind-blown main lake points next to deep water. You time it just right and throw a glide bait across that point. When she eats it, I mean, there's no second guessing. I mean, they absolutely commit to a glide bait because you could work it erratically side to side or slow it down to where it's just a nice, beautiful glide. But again, that gizzard shad profile is huge in the springtime.
Yeah, that's a skinny one, but I saw him chasing some gizzards. There's like a little pack of them in the back of this creek here. It's a nice one on a swerve.
You know, with the glide bait, we talked about, you know, being erratic and triggering a strike, just like a kind of a jerk bait. My go-to swim bait out here is a Bass Mafia Dangerous Loaded Swim Bait. This is the 7-inch version in blackback shad. And the thing about this swim bait is it's got the tail wiggle and the head wiggle. Again, that big gizzard shad profile. Cool thing about this swim bait is when a fish eats it, the 5/0 flipping hook gets pegged in its mouth, and as it jumps, all the weight of the swim bait slides up the line, and that straight shank flipping hook stays pegged the whole way, all the way back to the boat. So in the springtime, you don't get a lot of bites on the swim bait, but the ones that do bite are the ones that matter. And of course, you can't go out in the springtime without a down bait. And my down bait for the springtime is a 1/2 ounce green pumpkin and blue jig. This is a Guggen flipping jig. And what I like is the weed guard. It's not double thick, but it's double wide. So you could actually spread them out even more, and you could flip all that standing timber without getting hung up. As far as the trailer goes, when I'm flipping a jig in that timber or those grass lines, I love a straight tailed trailer, and this here is just a Zoom big salty chunk is all it is. It just gives it a nice glide presentation as you're flipping those isolated pieces of cover in the springtime. That's the exact bait I wanted Toyota Tundra in 2016 on, just in that cove right over there. Okay, moving on to the post-spawn and summer phase. They just got done spawning. The water temperatures are rising. Their metabolisms are getting faster and faster. They gotta eat more. These fish will start to move from the backs of the creeks, some of those rocky points, and they'll move way out offshore to these real slow sloping points. And out here on Lake Ray Roberts, there's a ton of standing timber, which is visual to the eye, but more importantly are these old farmhouse foundations, old chimneys, rock piles, concrete slabs out here off of some of these flat points. Whenever you have those very nice, you know, slow sloping contours that meet up against a creek channel like this area right here, like this area here, these fish will move from the backs of the creeks out to these slow sloping points, and where that drop off is a lot of times where I'll hold my boat and cast up to that 14 feet of water, 16 feet of water, all the way out to 20 feet. And those are the types of areas, those long flat points that dip off into the creek channel here. That's a nice looking spot, as well as this area right here. Nice, beautiful, hard bottom flat, standing timber. There's a foundation and a roadbed right here that dips off into that 40-foot channel here. And as long as you fish that main channel or stay along that main channel, almost treat it as a highway, any little long sloping point that sticks out just like so, that meets up against a channel swing, more than likely it's gonna have a hard bottom, and it's gonna hold threadfin shad and gizzard shad alike. Okay, moving on to summertime. When we start getting off of some of these long sloping points with the drop-offs, hard bottom, lots of shad, lots of gizzard shad around, fish start to school up. There's no better way to trigger the biggest fish in that school than by a giant flutter spoon. This right here is the Bass Mafia Big Larry 8-inch flutter spoon. You let that flutter through that school of fish, and again, oftentimes the biggest fish in that school will attack this thing first. One special thing I do with this rig, what I've done is I've gone to a braid, a 50-pound green, flash green, smackdown braid, to a barrel swivel, to a 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. And what that does is it gets rid of all that stretch, so when that 2-aught hook buries into that fish is coming to the boat. So flutter spoon, my absolute favorite in the summertime. Yeah, that's how you get them to react, and you feed them by hand with a spoon. And to complement the flutter spoon, we're still sticking with that gizzard shad or large threadfin shad profile. These fish are offshore and they are hungry. So Bass Mafia, this thing dives down to 20 feet, grind this thing through those schools of fish. And again, you want to trigger the biggest fish possible out there, and there's no better way to do that than those larger than normal profiles. And of course, in the summertime, you cannot go wrong with a worm. And the big thing with summertime worm fishing is it's gotta be bigger than normal. I like a straight tail Zoom Magnum trick worm. It's extra fat, it's real floaty, moves a lot of water, and I throw it on a 1/4 ounce shaky head with a bait caster and 15-pound fluorocarbon. So again, larger than normal profiles to really trigger those big bites. Okay, so moving into the fall, here in North Texas, the water temperatures, the air temperatures start to fall. The days are getting shorter. The fish know I need to start feeding up for a cold winter here in North Texas. What I like to key in on in the fall are fall flats. We're gonna transition from those long sloping points next to these creek channels here in the summertime, and we're just gonna go to the first main lake flats we could find. So when you think fall, you think flats. And what the flats here on Lake Ray Roberts provide is that grass growth. Again, the hydrilla, the milfoil that have been growing all summer long. You want to look for clumps, holes in the grass on some of these flats. We have a predominant south wind during those fall months, and when that south wind blows on some of these north bank flats here, that provides the cover, that surface breakup, the light penetration breakup along some of those grass patches. I'm gonna stay on the main lake. I'm gonna fish that really broken up surface with the wind, and I'm just gonna target that 6, 4, sometimes 2 feet of water on those very, very flat banks. Fall is a great time of year to fish topwater, and first and foremost, a popping frog. This is a Bass Mafia cannonball popping frog. I love the white colors, and I trim the skirt a little bit to make it look like those fall threadfin shad, which happen to be a little bit smaller than normal, 2.5, 3 inches. But I love that popping frog in open water or around that really, really shallow grass in the backs of these flat fall pockets. Moving right along, you know, when I'm not pinpointing specific, you know, pieces of cover or holes in the grass with the frog, I like to cover water, going from hole to hole to hole. I may work a 200 or 300 yard stretch, just the original whopper plopper. This is the 105 size, river to sea whopper plopper. Throw it on 50-pound braid and a soft rod and just cast down the bank, cover as much water as possible. You'll be surprised in the fall of the year just how shallow these fish get on Lake Ray Roberts. And of course, I'm gonna follow the trend with my 3 lure picks for each season. You gotta have some kind of down bait. And this one is almost forgotten about, a fluke style bait. I like a watermelon red Guggen Baits dart. This is a 7-inch version, and I throw it on a weighted EWG style head with a corkscrew, so I just thread it on there. It's a little 1/16 ounce weight. Throw it on 15-pound fluorocarbon, and those same holes that I target with the frog, I'll throw that fluke in there and just kind of twitch it and kill it, and it just looks like a big old giant sunfish or bluegill that has been up there all summer long. 7-inch dart in watermelon red, another Texas staple. I love fishing Lake Ray Roberts in the wintertime because it's the best time of year to catch a 10+ pound largemouth or some of those 5, 6, 7 pound smallmouth and hybrid bass out here. So what we want to key in on in the wintertime is a hard bottom with vertical drops. And what I mean by that is, you know, some of those offshore rock piles we talked about in the summertime. We're gonna fish the offshore piles that have that nice vertical 2, 3, 4 foot vertical drop, and fish love hugging up against those all through the wintertime. We're talking about anywhere from 12 to 16 feet of water seems to be the sweet spot, but more importantly than those nice rock drop-offs are those Texas drains. You hear that a lot, drains. What is a drain? Well, if you look at the bank behind me, anywhere there's a nice flat area that's got a nice cut, a V cut down the middle of it, and these maps show it perfectly. Basically look along the bank line here, and wherever you have a flat looking bank and that nice V cut down the center, that indicates an old creek bed, an old creek channel, and these fish love to hang around the grass, what is left of the grass on some of these flats with these nice creek drains here. I love a drain that has sparse dying grass, that has a little bit of rock pile to it, maybe a little bit of hump, but if you could find that nice 14, 16, sometimes 18 feet of water on some of these Texas drains, these old creeks. I typically like to go out in the wintertime in the afternoon hours where the water temperatures are at their greatest, but targeting some of these drains and some of these really kind of shallow coves and creeks. Hard bottom is the key. Slow presentations when those water temperatures are hovering around the 50-degree mark. The fish are very lethargic, but but the fish are very, very big. Okay, and finally, we're getting into wintertime here, and I've only got 2 baits that I run with. I mean, if these are the only 2 baits I could take out, I'll be happy in the wintertime. But let's start out with the jig. 3/4 ounce Bass Pro Shops XPS football jig. I love that green pumpkin and blue, even in the wintertime. And I pair it with a Guggen Baits Bandito bug, also in that Okeechobee crawl color, which is green pumpkin and blue. That's a giant, dude. That's an absolute Texas monster right there. Wow, look at that thing. That's a 7-pounder. That's a beauty. And then the second bait is, you know, it's a trend lately, you know, it's a jig-headed minnow. This one happens to be a Z-Man minnow here. This is a 4-inch version. I've got it on a 3/16 ounce head. And what I like to target with this bait is these drains here. So I've got rocks behind me, but just another 50 yards or so, I've got those beautiful, nice drains that those fish hang out in the wintertime. A lot of the bait fish will congregate in those drains along a know-nothing bank. If you find that nice little ditch, go with more of a shaky head rod. I like a 6'8" medium action rod. And also with your leader size, try upsize into a 12, sometimes 15-pound test. That gives it just a little bit more float, a little more lift. Just because this is a finesse presentation, it doesn't have to be finesse size equipment. So that's a quick 1-2 punch for wintertime fishing on Ray Roberts. Uh-oh, stay out of there. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, pinging a minnow, dude. Wow, giant. That is awesome.
So if you're the type of angler that likes fishing the beautiful standing timber, grass mats, rock piles, and love catching big fish like me, make sure you check out Lake Ray Roberts here in North Texas. You will not be disappointed.